All right, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Uh, we will be no more than an hour. I have maybe 20 to 30 minutes of content, and then we'll open it up for discussion. But anytime during my presentation, if you have a question, you can jump in and ask your question, and that will be fine as well. So first things up, I'm also recording this, and so it will be posted. I saw that last week a few of you were unable to get to the recording. I found a couple other options for posting it for this week. As you know, this is kind of a pilot, so it's the first time we're trying it out, and so I think I can put it on YouTube so you guys can access it, but I will have it posted by tomorrow for obviously you guys are listening to it now, so it's not going to be helpful to you, this information, but I'll make sure it's posted every time we have one of these on Friday, just in case you can't make it on Thursday night. So today what we're going to do is kind of review what we're learning here in week 3, and then I'm going to walk through the assignments for week 3, and then take some of your questions about whatever you might have a question on. And if you guys could, in the chat box, if you guys could put your name, I'm just going to use that as attendance, and I'll capture it at the end. That way we know who's on, because last week we tried to do it up front, and then I didn't realize how many people would be popping in a little bit later, so we didn't get wasn't able to know everyone that's on, so I want to make sure we do. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So this week is all about planning and strategy. If you've noticed, if you looked at the whole weeks, and I think even Dr. Duncan talked about it that first week, is this idea of what management looks like, and one of the first parts of management is planning, and each week we discuss another part of management. So just to do a quick overview of what the readings are about, what is planning, and so that is coping with uncertainty by formulating future courses of action to achieve specific results. So basically you say, we don't know everything that's happening in our external environment and our internal environment, and so let's come up with a plan of how we're going to react as things come in. Let's make a plan for getting the results that we want. And then strategy, that's a large-scale action plan that sets the direction for an organization. So, and it represents what must be done in the long term for survival and the prosperity of the organization. So usually executives kind of get together and they outline the strategic plan, and it's large scale, and then that strategic plan kind of cascades down to all the other departments, and so every department is part of the strategic plan, but they might be a smaller portion of it. They might be working on one piece of the strategic plan, but the idea is that this strategic plan kind of sets the tone. And last week we talked about mission statements, and we talked about vision statements, and this is where the planning comes in, where you say, okay, this is the mission of our organization, and here's the vision of where we want to get to, and let's create a strategic plan of how we get there. So that's kind of what we're going to be discussing throughout the week, and you guys have already really jumped into some of those discussions and readings. Now this comes directly from your text, but this is kind of how we create a strategic plan. And if you notice, it says you establish the mission and vision, which we talked about last year. Then you assess the current reality. So what is the current environment in which our business or organization is right now? And then this is where you come up with the strategic, tactical, and operational plans. And then you implement the strategy, and you maintain strategic control. And what it means by that is, like, once you implement something, it's not like you're like, okay, we did it. It takes continuously looking at it, and you put controls in place to measure how you're doing, and then it gives you an opportunity to know if it's not going the way you want it to, how do we get back to what we want it to look like. So so the beginning of the week, we talked a little bit about SMART goals. I wanted to just do this it's a quick little video on setting SMART goals. I imagine many of you have heard of these before, but this just gives a quick demonstration. Okay, so I feel like when we talk about SMART goals, it just feels like I've overheard it. You heard it so many times, and so it starts almost to be an annoyance. And maybe that's just some of the organizations that I've worked for, but it is something that you should think about when setting your goals, because there's no clear way to fail than not to have a specific goal in mind. And I really like that it talks about relevance, because I think there's a lot of projects that you plan at work, and then there's not the resources that for you to be able to do all the things you want to do. And so really thinking about what's the most important, and like focusing on that, and putting your resources towards that. And so and oftentimes that is going back to the mission, or the vision statement, and saying which one gets us to this place the most effectively or the most efficiently. and then deciding on which goals we will pursue, because you can't. If you have too many goals, it just your attention is divided too much. Okay, so I wanted to go over the SWOT analysis because you guys will be performing these this week in your assignments, and it's a way that companies kind of analyze how they're doing. I want us to do something together, but I didn't fix this so I could write directly on it, so I'm going to pull up something else that I can actually write on, and then I want you guys to help me answer some of these questions. Okay. Okay, does everyone see the document I'm opening, or do I still see the PowerPoint?
I still see just the PowerPoint right now.
Okay.
Same here.
Well, then I'm going to do it differently. I'll present my desktop so you guys can. All right, so this is inside your assignment, so you might have seen this document, but I was trying to think of something that we could all work on together, and so I thought we would do it on getting a graduate degree, doing a SWOT analysis. Usually these are done on like a company, or you can even perform one on yourself. It's a way of like assessing where you are and where improvements could be made. But I thought we would kind of just do this together. So kind of the strengths of getting a graduate degree we'll start with. So if you guys just want to jump in, and I'll put them in if you guys can think of one.
A strength would be a strength would be more possibilities for jobs, more job offers from a graduate degree.
More job opportunities, that's right. And then let's think another one. It might be like higher paying, right? A higher paying job. And we just have to do a couple of these because I just kind of want you guys to get an understanding of what this looks like. And so then what's the weaknesses of
potentially, are you talking about just weakness in general of having this degree?
Of having the degree, or actually going through the degree program?
A sacrifice of family time, I would say, is a weakness right now.
Yeah. And I think there's also the cost of it, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And a sacrifice of your time. That's a huge one. Okay, so when we look at opportunities, we talked a little bit about this in strengths, where you can there's job opportunities. It also allows you to kind of network with other people. Can you guys think of other opportunities it provides?
An insight to what potential job offers there could be for you that
job offers, yeah.
You may not have considered.
And when you're thinking of strengths, this is also just strengths. It should be internal, so it could just be self-improvement or a lifelong learning. And then, what are the threats to being able to do this?
The loss of financial means to finish the class.
That is huge for everyone. What's another threat?
Sometimes being overqualified. An employer may feel that with your degree that you may be overqualified for the position and they feel that they can't afford you anymore.
Okay. I think also just life happens, like there's a lot of, like a life event, things happen in your life that kind of take up your time and suddenly you don't think you can, keep going. And so this is kind of, this is a very generic type of one, but when you're filling one out for a business, you can see how you would be looking at the internal strengths of that company and their weaknesses, and then what are their opportunities and the threats to them from the external, from outside of the company. And that's what you're kind of working on this week, both as your individual assignment and as part of your team assignment. So does anyone have questions about how that works?
I'm good at this time.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and get back to the presentation. Okay. Okay, I wanted to give you guys this because not everyone knows a big part of your experience in your graduate program is going to be in doing some research for your writing and gathering resources. And so I thought I'd draw your attention to a really great one in the library where you can find SWOT analysis for different companies. And it might be a place for you to start. So if you go into the library, at the library tab on your eCampus page, and then go to Research Guides, Business, and you can do SWOT analysis, and it gives you there's these different databases, essentially, that you can go into to kind of find the SWOT analysis for different companies. Even if you're doing it for your own company, which is what I always suggest, mostly because there's so many, if everyone does Starbucks, it gets really, and they always do the exact same thing. So using your own company kind of makes it more interesting for the people that you're working with. But yeah, this is a great resource, so I just thought I'd draw your attention to it, and you can use it when you guys do those assignments, and it'll just get you into the library, which you'll find really great resources there, and is probably one of the better places to go to find your references for your papers. Okay, so next thing that we talk about this week is decision making, and the text talks about two types, System 1 and System 2. And System 1 is the intuitive, and it's mostly unconscious, it's fast, it's an automatic response, and this is kind of the things that even when it's a bigger decision, it's like the things you do all day. If you have the same task over and over and the same issues coming in, it's really easy to make a quick decision because you're like, I've dealt with this 50 times today, so it's an easy automatic response. Doesn't take a lot of critical thinking. You know exactly how to handle it. And then there's the System 2 where it's more of an analytical and conscious decision making. It's slow and deliberate. And lots of business decisions fall in System 2, and a lot of times people think, oh, System 2, that's how we should always make our decisions. But that's not necessarily true. So there is purpose in making a fast and quick decision. If you labor over every decision, you will not, you're not making a lot of progress. So being able to determine which ones you need to act a little slowly on. For example, I have a sister, and she does everything in a slow and deliberate fashion. And so, especially if it has to do with anything spending-wise. And so I've literally had her, go and visit the same, $15 t-shirt at the mall, 12 times, trying to decide, should she purchase it, should she not purchase it? And at some point, you're just you've wasted so many resources just getting there. Those aren't decisions that you need to spend all that much time on. But then there's some big decisions in businesses, and I've seen this with people I work with, and I've probably been guilty of it myself. Someone brings an issue to you, and you're just like, oh, let's do this, and you come to a decision before you've gone through the stages of analytical decision making, and that's what these stages are, like identifying the problem, thinking up alternative solutions, evaluating alternative solutions and selecting one, and then implementing and evaluating the solution chosen. And so I think a lot of times, and the text goes through this quite a bit, but a lot of times people are quick to get to a decision without having all of the information needed to make the decision. So sometimes it makes sense to step back and gather information before a decision is made. And that's the analytical or conscious way we make decisions. And it keeps us from making really bad choices or like doing everything very reactive. It helps us to put more planning into the decisions we make. Okay. Oh, okay. I wanted to go into the class now to kind of just go through. So let me open it up really quick. Is that my desktop? Okay, so here's our class, and let's go into week 3. So we've kind of covered some of the content that's in each of these chapters, and then we'll go into the individual assignment first. So this is something that I just want to draw attention to a couple things. This individual assignment needs to be completed in order to do the team assignment. So if you have not already jumped in on this, you should probably get going. You don't have to have a finalized version, but at least the SWOT analysis needs to be filled out for your team because you use these in your team assignment. So I wanted to draw your attention to that. Essentially this assignment is basically you're going to complete a SWOT analysis by asking a leader in your organization. That's why it's also good to use your organization, because you can probably find someone to do this with. And you ask them some questions that will help you get at what the SWOT is, and then you're going to do a summary and do it with APA guidelines. And that sample SWOT that we had up is that's what's in here. And it also has a list of interview questions. You do not have to use these, but it makes it super simple if you do, because it kind of gets at the strengths. It's basically just asking those 4 questions that help fill out that SWOT. And so once you've done the interview, you can actually just post that part of it into your team assignment, so you guys can determine what organization you're going to use and how to build it. And then if it takes you a little bit longer to finish this summary, then that's okay too. And then if you look at the team assignment, this is something else. So you're basically looking at your SWOT analysis and for each of everyone's organization, and then you guys will discuss them, and then you're going to choose one of your teammates' organizations and use it to finish the rest of the assignment. And so what you're going to do is you're going to pretend that I don't want to say the word pretend, but you're going to be launching this. You're going to be thinking like you're launching this business into a global market. So you need to pick a company that, you have to pick a market that they're not already in. And then, and you consider this market, and then you answer all these questions in this PowerPoint. And this is what I want to draw your attention to, is that you cover all of these. This is all of these become at least one slide, and how you're going to address it. And then the other thing that is that it says to create a recommended structure infographic in an appropriate format for the organization based on the analysis. And I don't know how much you guys know about infographics, but this is something that is often left out when I grade this assignment. And so I just wanted to draw your attention to it, because it's an important part, and it'll help you in future classes too, just learning how to use these. And you can go to Microsoft Publisher or Glockster or PictoCharts. I can use Visio. I've used Visio too. I don't know which ones you feel most comfortable with, but when it's talking about the structure, if you're restructuring an organization, what does that look like? And it's basically a picture, an image that shows what it looks like. So that could be as something as simple as an org chart, or it could be a flow chart, however you want to depict it. But I want you to be using one of those tools inside of this. And then remember to include notes, like your speaker's notes, and to make sure that you're following APA guidelines and that you're citing the things that you're talking about inside of there. And then one of your team members will submit it for grading, and make sure that everyone participates. I will double check that people are participating, because you do receive an individual grade even though you're submitting as a team. So if you're not participating, then you don't get credit for what other students are doing. So make sure you reach out to your team members and participate. Let's see really quick. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation that I have for you tonight. And so I just wanted to see what questions you have so far about what's going on in class or your upcoming assignments. I did return participation feedback for week 2. I usually do the participation really quickly after the week's over, so your assignment usually takes longer. There was a couple people that had questions about that last week, like they thought they didn't get credit. They're submitted separately, so and that's closer to the end of the week. I'm hoping to have your guys' out by Friday, Saturday on your assignments, but I'm going to open it up for questions if you have any. Okay. Oh, Carissa, I don't know. You had something in the conversation bubbles. I didn't see it before, and it says it's the red graph. Did you have a question about that, or you were just stating it?
I was just stating when you said if we could still see the PowerPoint, or yeah.
Okay, great. I
did have a question though that I was typing, but it's probably easier to just talk about.
Yeah, you can just ask it. Yeah, because other people might have the same question. So.
Okay, perfect. So I'm the team leader for this week. I'm sure other people that are the team leader for this week can relate, but I noticed that the workload for this week is a little bit heavier than some of the other weeks, and I have no problem with that. But with my team specifically, I've set particular due dates of when, like, hey, like we need to talk about this in our discussion post by this date, and we have to have decided about this on this date. And I've only heard from one team member out of the 5 others that there are. So to get the ball rolling, is it okay as the team leader to kind of like make decisions to start getting a head start on that presentation?
Oh, absolutely, yes. The weeks move so quickly when we have a team assignment that, like, hesitating, it just causes so much stress on you. So yes, you should be setting deadlines for everyone, and you should reach out to them if they haven't checked in yet. But yes, you move forward. So if it was a matter of, like, we're going to discuss, what company we're going to use, and we need to decide by Friday, and if only one other person jumps in, then you two are deciding what the company is, and then you can move to the next thing. And you can always reach out to me if you're struggling with something with your team, and I can try to get involved, to get other people to jump in. So don't just sit and stew in silence.
Okay, yeah, because that's not what I've been doing. I was like, okay, well, it's this time, and I said that it was due this day. So this is the organization we're doing, and I'm going to start setting up the presentation. And then I just made a little disclaimer to the group that, like, hey, like, if I don't hear, your input, because everyone's assigned a different part, all of the bullet points that you had listed that you wanted in the presentation, I'm like, hey, this is what you're assigned to. If I don't hear from you by this day, I'm going to reach out to the professor and be like, hey, this person isn't contributing, so I'm going to go ahead and get a head start on theirs, but just a heads up.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do have people that end up not participating, I would suggest don't include their names on the final product that you turn in. It's a clear indicator for me that they didn't take part and they didn't help. So that's, and then I can make sure that I'm reaching out to them and trying to get them to jump in.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure I'm not being a bully. I'm like, all right, I got other stuff to do and this needs to get done. Okay.
Yeah, I understand that. Absolutely.
Perfect. That's my question.
Any other questions?
Can I add on to what Cassie just said? This is Adam, by the way.
Yes.
Cassie, and I definitely agree with you on your response about making sure that you want to, keep your classmate or your fellow teammates involved and informed and all this other stuff. The only thing I might would suggest, and this is coming from me on my perspective, I know everyone has their own story scenario of what brought them to this point in the class, but I know as a full-time father and full-time employee, like tonight, it was actually 7:30 Eastern time before I was able to log on and start looking at work and stuff like that. And as you said, everyone has different scenarios and stuff of what they want, of what may or may not are keeping them from getting logged in. It's definitely not bullying after so many times of reaching out to them to take to the next step. And hopefully your fellow classmates will have the courtesy, especially to you as the team leader, because you want to make sure that we get the best grade possible. But part of our team charter that we put in, we all put in phone numbers and stuff like that. So if you can't get in touch via this class, the class system here, on chats and whatnot, I personally have told my class mates in the past, if you can't reach me on the class system, please text me. My phone's on 24/7, and maybe that could be your last go-to before getting faculty or your teacher involved, so to say.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I think that's also something that people should include in the team charter, like what steps are we going to take? So, and what are the deadlines that we all agree upon? So then it doesn't feel like when you're the team leader that you're bullying. It's like we all decided that people would turn in their portion by whatever date, and so when you don't, I'm just upholding what we all agreed to, as opposed to me deciding what, for everyone else. So I think that's also the importance of the team charter, is during that planning stage, everyone, when they're putting their name and stuff and turning in that team charter, they're saying, I will do what we agreed to in this charter. And then it gives you a little bit more weight, because you can say, hey, on the charter we said this was due by this time, and you didn't get it there, Yep. It just gives you a little weight behind what you're saying. And not that, we're all throwing our weight, but I have seen team situations escalate at times because people have not been clear on their expectations of what the team members should be doing.
Oh, absolutely.
So, any other questions? All right. I will let you guys get back to your busy, busy lives, and I will see you next week. Check in anytime with me through your private messages, and I will get back to you with answers. Have a good night.
You as well.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.